Have you ever met Elizabeth Warren?
I have to think about that. I don't think so.
You didn't. If you did, would you ask her? I don't even know how to say this. This story is so ridiculous.
What do you mean? Just get it out, Tim. Just get it out.
On the plane to New Hampshire the night of the Iowa caucuses, Warren said, quote, "Everyone comes up to me and says, I would vote for you if you had a penis."
Oh yeah, I did say that. Yeah, that now that you remind me, yes.
I didn't even know.
But everyone was saying it.
Yeah, because everyone was saying
friends.
it, so I just, of course I'm going to follow the crowd.
Yeah.
You're not going to not say it to Elizabeth Warren.
I just think this is such a weird statement. Like, what
did she say this in the context to?
It's like she's trying to assert patriarchy and misogyny or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Instead, she just makes a
right,
nonsense statement. I'd like you all to just consider this for a second. She said, it's a quote, "Everyone comes up to me and says, I would vote for you if you had a penis." That means there are old women going up to her and going, "I'm a big fan of Elizabeth Warren. I'd vote for you if you had a penis." I really don't think that's happening. I really don't think just everyone. So like an 18-year-old guy walks up to her and says that to her.
Well, you also see this though with, and this might be to give you, I'll throw you a bone in. This is a little identitarian, even though it's about gender, because they're trying to act as if your reproductive organs are the only difference between men and women. Like this, the physical external attributes are the only difference whatsoever. There are no biochemical differences. There's no spiritual differences. There's no physical differences other than that which we can see.
Imagine if you had, in your local community, there's a very serious problem with pickle jars.
Okay. All right.
Right. Well, then
I am Polish.
Well, there you go.
Yes.
And now it's someone might actually go close with Warren and be like, "I'd vote for her if you had a penis," because can she open pickle jars for the public?
Tap it with a spoon.
No.
Can't tap it with a spoon.
Well, you remember Hillary? You remember Hillary's the Picklegate, right?
No.
The Jimmy Kimmel. You don't remember this?
No.
No, this was the whole. Okay, so in 2016, Hillary's health was the big meme, and everybody kept saying, "What's up with Hillary's health?" And then there was the problem with Hillary's stools. And because Hillary would always appear on stage with a stool. So we were talking about hashtag Hillary stools. Hillary stools are appearing everywhere. Whenever Hillary appears, Hillary's stool will appear with her. And then everybody was saying that she can't get through an event without having to sit down at some point. So she goes on Jimmy Kimmel. Man, people forget how crazy 2016 was. She goes on Jimmy Kimmel and he kind of brings all of this up and says, he goes, "Madam Secretary, would you open this pickle jar for us?" And then she does, and they make this big meme out of it. But then it comes out that the pickle jar was actually pre-opened.
Of course.
Even before she did all this.
No. Serena Williams.
It was a staged, yeah.
I just want to get to the point where she opens the pickle jar. Where's the pickle jar?
It was a rigged pickle jar. It was rigged, Tim.
Look at that. Oh. Look at
this.
She looks like Bilbo going for the ring.
This is how crazy 2016 was. I'm telling you guys.
Same haircut.
Yeah.
Like if you weren't around for the Great Meme War, and salute to the Great Meme War veterans out there. If there's anyone's in the chat, you know who you are.
Yeah, you guys nailed it.
07 07.
You see, this is the fake news at play, because in this country, and we have a serious issue with pickle jars that are tough to open. They staged a pickle jar opening to convince the American people Hillary Clinton was the right person for it. But you know what? The American people saw through the lies, and they knew she couldn't actually open a pickle jar. Probably because she collapsed on the side of the road and had to be thrown into a van.
No, this was before the collapse.
That's what I mean.
This
Eventually, people were like, they saw her just
3 weeks before. Yeah.
This is also a strange way to be like, "Hey, it looks like you're having trouble. You might have weakness in your legs. You're getting fatigue. Please open this pickle jar." Like they should have done the whole interview standing if they wanted to dispel the rumors. But instead, they're like, "Let's test out something else." Like I don't understand. If you go to the doctor complaining of heart pain and he checks your ears and he's like, "Well, you're not deaf," and you're like, "Cool, so I'm fine." Like it doesn't make any sense to me. I was gonna say in response to the Elizabeth Warren, why she apparently didn't get elected. Serena Williams announced this week that she is like open to retiring, and in part
I thought she did retire.
She is still playing. I think after this season she's gonna retire. Oh. She said one of the big things was, one of her lines from it was, "If I was a man, I wouldn't be writing this." Like her career, because she's talking about having more kids and there are like some other factors in her life. She's over 40. I think that a lot of women are told that your problems come from not being a man. But I think what actually the problem is you're being pushed into careers and into lifestyles that don't allow you to be female, right? Like, I didn't vote for Elizabeth Warren because she didn't have a penis. I didn't vote for her because I don't believe in what she believes in. But she's told, actually, if you were a man, you would have gotten elected. If she were a man with the same principles, I still wouldn't have voted for her.
Yeah, she still would have got thrown under the bus. Like
I didn't vote for her
her
because she sucks. I'm not voting for Dr. Oz because he sucks. I don't care if he's a Republican and a man and all that.
And has all the right parts.
Like, they just suck.
So who are you going to vote for then?
For that one, I might write in my dad like I did when my.
And then what happens when Fetterman wins?
Then is he even alive? Right,
Yeah.
we haven't seen this guy in 3. He hasn't been on the trail for 3 months.
Oh, he was sick. He was like seriously.
He
He had a stroke.
Yeah,
he stroked out, and he has not been seen in public for 3 months.
Well, you know.
No, but he says he's fine. He says he's recovering.
He cuts these videos and he's like, you want to talk about health? Let's talk about Fetterman's health. This guy, like he'll do these videos with his wife where I guess he's at his house, but when he talks, it's all wrong. The speech is all disjointed. He does not seem well.
Can you open a pickle jar?
John Fetterman, open up a pickle jar or else resign from the race immediately.
Yeah, but I want to test that pickle jar first.
Yeah, we need it. Yeah, Ian's going to test
pickle.
Ian will be the pickle jar tester, the official one of Pennsylvania. I'm appointing you.
What we'll do is we'll go to a supermarket.
Yes.
Ian will choose the pickle jar off the shelf at random.
That's right.
And then hand it to you.
But we have to make sure. Well, we have to check it though, because sometimes little
How do you
kids
do it?
Sometimes
Dogs.
people do it.
Yeah, dogs with good senses of smell.
To check the
smell the
seal?
vacuum. Yeah, make sure that it hasn't no leaked
Smell
bacteria
the
and
vacuum.
everything. Make sure it's still fresh.
You just check the top. You press the top.
Yeah, you just check the top.
Yeah, but it goes.
My concern with this Elizabeth Warren thing, I've been thinking a lot about hyperbole. I feel like, especially with us doing a show, like being, displaying journalism and stuff, it's real important not to be hyperbolic. The term all the time gets used, unfortunately, way more frequently than I like.
You see it get used all the time.
Yeah, I almost said it. You see, but I'm trying not to be
Yeah,
hyperbolic.
no, I know,
And this is Elizabeth Warren saying, everyone comes up to me. That's hyperbole. Some people probably have, but not everybody. And it's like, we don't need to prove to people with zeal that everyone and everything, all that, like we made it. Now we just got to be honest and be accurate.
Wouldn't she have been flying to, was it Iowa, on a plane with the rest of her campaign? So is she saying
She's talking
all
about
the
the
members of her campaign are coming up to her being
Well, no,
if we'd vote for you, but
Well, not only that, but
let's be-
we're talking about her primaries. So she's talking about Democrats.
Let's be fair too. Obviously, when she's saying everyone, she doesn't mean literally every single person, of course. But even when we take her statement at face value, it's still insane. That, okay, obviously not her staff, obviously not every single person she meets, but that there are women and old men who are like, well, I wish I had a penis. Like, I really just don't believe that at all. And it's no surprise that Democrats do.
Well, it's kind of like, you also wonder if there's an element of projection here where people are saying things to her, but in her mind, she keeps thinking that over and over and over because that's her biggest, she thinks that's her biggest challenge.
I think
And then
she's
she
told
keeps
that
hearing
over
it.
and over again. That's what I think is the problem. A lot of women are said like, well, the thing is, if you were a man, opportunities would be different for you. And that's just like, in some ways you could understand the logic, but it's not the reality.
Let me explain to the ladies the problem here. You see,
This is great.
when you get anti-meritocratic hiring practices, like in California, did they pass a law a while ago? It's like the board has to have a woman on it or something like that.
Yeah. You're seeing this everywhere.
Right. So you'll end up, I've been in meetings like this, and you have people, I've been in meetings like for documentary production stuff, and there's some women, brilliant. And they'll say like, here's my plan, here's what we're gonna do. And I'm like, wow, that sounds amazing. Like right now we're working on a documentary with a woman, and it's some of the best I've ever seen.
Look at Alex Moyer.
Yeah, I'm like, this is great stuff. But then what happens when you go into these meetings where they've hired a woman to fill a quota, and then everyone's talking and they're like, if we're going to sell more widgets, we need to improve the widgets. And then the quota hire, individual, regardless of if it's a woman or not, but a lot of women will say something that's totally out of line, out of context, or doesn't align, and people have nothing to say but, okay, that won't work. Okay, but let's try something else. And then they go, I'm the only woman here, and they're telling me my ideas are no good. It's because I'm a woman. And it's
Right.
like, no. It's because you weren't qualified when you were hired. There are plenty of circumstances I've been in where people were all qualified, and some men weren't qualified, and they were brought on because they were the son of somebody or something. I've been in a ton of meetings where it's like, I'm like, why is this guy here? And like, oh, well, his uncle works
which is and by the way, if you are speaking of female director, Amanda Milius, right? So her father is John Milius, world famous director, Red Dawn, Conan, Rome, so much stuff, Apocalypse Now, and a great writer as well. But she's had to, come out on her own, but she's never come out and said, Amanda's a friend of mine, but I've never heard her once say something like, oh, well, I'm a female and you should let me have this, and oh, my dad is so and so. It's like, no, it's I'm going to do good work and I hope you watch it. The end.
It's interesting. I was just thinking about being an actor. The only time I've ever really been typecast for something is when I'm acting. And it's like, they're like, hey, we need a blonde male that's 28 years old. I'm like, well, that was me. That's perfect. So I understand now Hollywood is so identitarian, and you see such nasty propaganda coming out of that because that whole industry is built around identity and about finding someone to fill the role for the character type you're looking for, not for who's the best. Unfortunately, sometimes you get the best actor put into the role, but way too often. So that entire industry is brainwashed to think this way, and then they affect TV and movies, and then that affects politics.
I think it'd be interesting if we just started being like, hey, look, like, you're okay. You kind of have a background in whatever our company's in, but we need a woman to sit at this table. So we'll just pay you a bunch of money to hang out. Maybe don't talk that much. Like, do you think anyone would ever be like, okay, sounds good. I've got a family at home. I'm just trying to hear
free money. Why not?
I don't think that sounds horrible.
No,
it doesn't. But what this is all running up against, and the idea of a meritocracy runs up against what is essentially the civic religion in the United States, and that we aren't allowed to talk about the fact that people are different, that people have differences, that some people are smarter than others, that some people are more qualified than others, that some people are able to perform physical tasks with greater ability than others, et cetera, because we have this idea that everybody has to be the same, and that if someone's a little bit different, don't say that because you're going to hurt their feelings. And this is essentially the civic religion in the United States at this point.
This is the way I put it. Imagine you're on the third floor of a burning building and there's thick black smoke filling the air and you're crawling on the ground, and then all of a sudden the door slams open, boom, right in front of you, and you're like, oh, save me. And then as the smoke clears, a 5'1", 100-pound woman says, I've got you. I'd be like, oh.
Situation not bussin'.
But now imagine the same scenario, and the door gets kicked in, and a 6'6", tall, super ripped, pure muscle guy goes, I got you. You'd be like, yes. Me? I would beg for a large, powerful man to be on the other side of that door, please. A large, handsome, chiseled, bearded man with bulging muscles to save him.
Specifically handsome.
Yes.
Tim doesn't want an ugly guy to save him.
No ugly guys. No. My point is, like, I don't care. Save me. Give me function. I don't care as long as look, it could be a massive, massively overweight guy.
Wait, hold on though. But you're so. Okay, totally got me on that one, but you know what they're trying to add this to now? They're trying to bring this, non-merit hiring into airline pilots. They're trying to push this now in and saying it's not diverse enough.
It's because they can't get anybody.
It's not female enough. It's not, they don't like they want more, racial and ethnic quotas aren't enough. They're pretty soon they're going to say it's not LGBT enough or whatever. They're going to start adding things that dilute the pool of our airline pilots, which is just a job that obviously needs to be the person who's best for the job. Period. No questions asked.
Jack, I'm sorry. That was incredibly bigoted of you to say. How many of the airplane crashes have been piloted by females? Huh?
Not enough.
Not enough.
Overwhelmingly
male. There's actually a joke about the combat.
Go look up the Navy.
The combat death gap. It's like 98%
well,
male.
Go look up.
Like
what is it?
Some gaps we don't.
That's always really bothered me that not enough women die in combat. I don't understand why you guys aren't letting us serve our country the same way.
Hey man, you see those videos where when
how many oil rigs and miners
sewers.
And,
the thing is, the oil rig would be much prettier if you let women on it.
Maybe, but there are those videos where women were reacting to the Senate trying to put women in the draft. And they were like, I didn't know feminism meant that. No, stop. Let me just tell you something, guys. Real quick. The military in this country is struggling to recruit. And you know what that means? It means draft. So if something really crazy does happen and we get a World War III or whatever, they're going to be drafting you. And ladies, that means you too. Equality, right?
this is why I was against feminism always. If I get drafted because of feminism, I'll be really mad.
What is this? When's this story from?
The 1990s.
Oh, the 90s.
Oh, what's the story?
Yeah,
The first female combat pilot died?
The very, I wanted to double check it. I was about to say U.S. Navy. This happened in the Navy. The very first, and I was like, I'm not going to say this before I'm going to pre-fact check myself. I'm going to pre-bunk this.
Pre-bunk.
The first combat qualified female naval aviator actually did die in a plane crash.
I watched Top Gun. There was a lady in that plane, bro. And she did a good job.
See, here's my problem with Top Gun Maverick. The biggest problem with the movie that everybody seems to have missed, and I don't get it, is that the movie takes place in a country that doesn't exist. Because it's as if the 80s never stopped and the 2000s never happened. Yeah. And yeah, if the 2000s never happened, then sure, you could have Top Gun Maverick. But they did happen. And so that military doesn't exist anymore. Especially with the Navy after Tailhook.
What does that explain?
So Tailhook was this idea that there was this conference and they busted a bunch of people. NCIS got involved, and you had sexual harassment claims, sexual assault claims, many of which were true, by the way. But the Navy's response to this was, we are going to basically de-testosteronify the entire force. And anyone with, people get sensitivity training, and we have to integrate the genders. Not long after that was Kara Holmgren was pushed in as the first female aviator. And eventually we're at the point now where you have women serving on submarines, which never happened before. And this huge push against basically anyone who had that sort of, the reputation of the Navy, right? The reputation of the sailor who's got the girl in every port and who's getting drunk when they pull in for, a port call or something. And they wanted to do everything they reverted the force or reoriented the force completely away from that towards this sort of like, the 90s modern male kind of image. And you still see that today. And you see that all the way up to outside the Navy, but the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Milley, where I don't know if you saw his draft resignation letter.
He was like crying as he wrote it. There was teardrops on it.
It was, and we did a dramatic reading on human events, but where it feels like I can't allow the military to be like this. I can't be a part of this. You are politicizing the military. You are using fear, and I will no longer be a part. And I'm like, this fear? Is the you're using fear and ire, and this was. Do you even understand why World War II happened?
Why didn't Trump fire that guy?
Because I don't know. Trump should have fired all of these people. Fauci on down.
Yeah, he's naive. He
just get rid of him.
I don't know, man.
I feel like if anything, that Trump came into the situation thinking that it was like, Eisenhower. That it was the 1950s, and when I'm the president, bam, boom, snap my fingers, something happens. This thing gets nuked. These troops get pulled out from here. This guy goes and gets blown up. That things just happen because you're the president and you order them to happen, without realizing that there's this layer now. There's this layer that's called the administrative state. And you can use whatever, you can call it the deep state, you can call it the bureaucracy, whatever. The idea is, though, that, and you go back to Woodrow Wilson because he laid this all out, exactly how he wanted to institute it, that when the Darwinists first started coming up, when they said, we have organisms, we have survival of the fittest, we want the state then. So Wilson reads Darwin and says, we need a state that is operating under this model of survival of the fittest. And because the founding fathers didn't know about Darwin, they didn't know about the voyage of the Beagle, they couldn't possibly have understood the importance of the survival of species and the importance of the survival of the fittest. And so we need a new form of a state. We need a state that is organic, that exists outside of the branches of government, outside of Congress, outside of the people's representatives who are elected. And so they came up with this new bureaucracy. The bureaucracy, which we can see nowadays, is tied into academia, is tied into education, it's tied into corporations. And you see this idea of the expert class, which is tied in. This is how you get, by the way, an Anthony Fauci, who's an unelected bureaucrat who has power over our entire country, and all of the people of Congress and many of the people of the White House completely just divert everything to him. And this happened in the Trump White House for a very long time. Now, eventually, people like Scott Atlas and others got in there. Peter Navarro was a big part of this. Of course, the FBI is going after him as well. And that's what they're trying to do. So, Ian, and we were talking earlier about this idea that can the president declassify anything? I mean, that very question is the way they want you thinking. They want you thinking that the bureaucracy has power over the president and that the president is only given his power by, the largesse and the generosity of that. No, absolutely not. Our system is that the commander-in-chief is elected by the people. He has the authority, and they have their authority because of him. This is why, if you saw the Schedule F story that Axios was talking about, Trump is talking about that if he gets reelected, he wants to set up a situation where he can just directly fire anybody in the federal government and completely flip this axis on its head.
That sounds good.
So this is Leviathan, and Huffington Post was going after me for calling this, but they didn't understand what I was saying because I said Leviathan has woken, and they said, "Oh, Posobiec saying Kraken." He said they put up like a picture of me, giving like side eye to something, and said that I'm calling for war and all this, and I said, No, you don't understand. I'm referencing Hobbes. Right, so Hobbes wrote the Leviathan. Leviathan is the state, is this all-powerful super state, and these people that have been not elected, not transparently or openly put into positions of power by their people as their representatives. They just exist because of their connections, because of their ties, because they have quote-unquote the right credentials. The opposite of a meritocracy.
You get a good donation to somebody.
Yeah,
and
donors,
make you an ambassador.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah, I got mixed feelings on the can fire anybody at any time clause of section, what's it called, Section F? Is that
Why?
Oh, because if you get a crazy tyrant in there and they want to fire everyone and then put cronies in, that's also a risk.
But you still have a Congress.
Yeah, the executive branch should be under the command of the executive branch. The idea that we elect the person to run the executive branch, but then bureaucratic civil servants block that. Like the fact that Donald Trump was like, I want to get our troops out of Syria, and this, and then this, who was it? It was
McMaster,
who blocked it and said, and then lied about it.
Right.
So that's a problem. That's a big problem. We, the people, said this is the guy for the job. And
they do all this in the name of democracy, by the way. That's what I love. Rating your chief political opponent in the name of democracy.
I think that Ben Franklin would be horrified at the amount of unelected power in the American government.
I agree.
Now.
Yeah,
I completely agree.
All of the founding fathers.
All of them.
In fact, if we attached a turbine, to the graves of the founding fathers, we would solve climate change overnight.
We'd have enough power.
Yeah, all the Tesla. Everyone
energy.
would have a Tesla after that.
Yeah, every car.
Okay. Spinning body power.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so you think we should? I mean, do you think a president could actually get away with firing everybody, or would they be like, actually? In theory, yes, you can fire everyone, but
why shouldn't he?
Oh, I mean, de facto, do you think it would actually happen, or do you think someone would assassinate the guy?
Well, I mean, just from a practical perspective, I mean, you'd have to do rolling firings, right? You wouldn't be able to get rid of everyone in the U.S. government at once. Sorry, libertarians, by the way.
I mean, you technically could.
But I do think it's
outcome you want.
I do think it's funny that you get these when they do the government shutdowns, and everyone's like, "Oh, the government shut down. The government shut down," and then it's like, "Did you notice?
Yeah, right.
Did anything actually meaningfully,
all it meant is that
happen?"
People in the army aren't getting paid.
So how would you prevent if we were to do a rolling fire of a lot of the administrative state for something like the Ba'ath Party not to happen again? How when we went into Iraq, we fired a bunch of Saddam's old party, and then we said you can never work in politics again.
You got it backwards. We've got the Ba'ath Party now. That's the administrative state now.
That's my concern is when we got rid of the Ba'ath Party, when we fired them all and said you can't work in politics again, they kind of joined the Taliban.
Hear me out. You buy Greenland. You transfer them all to Greenland.
Well, how do we stop them from forming like an underground political movement is my question.
What do you mean they've done that?
But they're the ones in charge right now. And so, when you're looking at Mueller, she wrote, and you're looking at the resistance, and you're looking at the attorney general just came out and publicly stated that he ordered a raid on the former president's personal residence. That's the situation we're in right now. Yeah, I just
want to stress,
and these people didn't bat an eye; they cheered it.
This is something that in other countries, people have explained they've fled the country over.
Oh, yeah.
When an administration comes in and then starts arresting and raiding the homes of their political opponents, there are people who are like, that's when I decided to leave the country. And it's like, we're all sitting here like, well.
So if you're in like a post-Soviet state or Venezuela or Cuba or parts of the Middle East, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's normal. Yeah, well, we know what's coming next.
Right.
Like if we were to fire, or if the president were to fire this modern iteration of the Ba'ath Party or whatever you want to consider it, like what would stop them from forming an underground political movement of violent extremism like the Taliban? Because that's what they did in Iraq. They just kind of joined the Taliban.
Well, we're not Iraq.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.